During the 2017 legislative session, our main focus was sunset and our sunset bill. Sunset process happens every 12 years. It's a major process. It began early last year. We put together lots of information and studies and meetings to try to figure out what we need to make sure will happen in our sunset bill.
So our legislative session started with the review of the Sunset Committee's proposals, which became a recommendation for consolidation.
And so our license went under review last year by a panel of people who are lawyers and they're not psychologists, but they assessed our licensing board and made some decisions about how they want us to practice and what our rules are.
It rearranges in very fundamental ways, rearranges the practice of psychology and the way psychology is governed, the rules, the procedures. And in this particular sunset, they are making some very sweeping changes in the ways that the psychology board is going to work and govern the profession and provide services.
Right now we're in the middle, I think, of an era where there's a big emphasis on streamlining, consolidation.
The ideal situation would be that we continue to use the oral exam as one part of the assessment for a psychologist, that we continue to have a postdoctoral supervision year. Both of those things are being threatened. That we continue to have a doctoral level of independent practice, and that master's level people are not going to practice independently. And that we have a board that is not regulated by public members and master's level people that don't understand the complexities of our organization and our practice.
Those were issues that we continued to press and really push the legislators to continue to hold on to those standards for our profession and the protection of the public.
Psychology was on the brink of really being sold down the river.
So facing consolidation was a major issue during the main legislative session.
We continue to gather in grassroots efforts and get together and testify and be heard about these concerns, but our main obstacle was that our own state regulatory board, the Texas State Board of Examiners of Psychologists, wanted this model that we didn't want.
TSBEP, they want to get consolidated with other mental health professionals, and we do not want that. So that's the biggest challenge.
And there was a difficulty with legislators understanding why there was this barrier and this conflict and this dissension.
TSBEP believes that consolidation is the only solution to protect them from an antitrust lawsuit.
Yeah, so you're familiar with the FTC versus North Carolina ruling?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so if they sue you and say this is an anti-competitive practice, how in the world could you possibly defend against that?
But we have learned from the American Psychological Association and from other sources that there can be better solutions, and that a consolidated board does not have to be the only way to deal with their fears about an antitrust lawsuit.
So we continue to stand strong and fight that.
Eventually the legislative session ended without a vote on that.
This forced the governor to call a special session, and during the special session, the call was to file a sunset safety bill to extend the agencies that were regulating mental health boards, allied health boards is what they called it, as well as the Texas Medical Board. TSBEP was part of that. They also introduced the full consolidated sunset bill, which we had concerns about, and we rallied again, once again, in our grassroots effort to show up at the Capitol and express our concerns about the potential negative impact of having consolidation and losing the independent regulatory authority of our board.
I'm not sure how many psychologists showed up, but we were at presence and we indeed testified and said, no, this is not a slam dunk. There are problems with this bill. There are a lot of people opposed to it.
And that special session ended with us successfully kind of beating back that push. And the result was that our sunset has been postponed until 2019.
Basically, we pulled it out at the last minute with a stay of execution.
We passed the Sunset Safety Bill during this session, meaning that for now our regulatory board is going to stay as it is, independent agency, independent regulatory function. The problem is that in 2019 we're going to have to face this again.
Which means actually the work really starts now.
I think we're in a much better place now with all the information that we have.
Now we've kind of had a trial run, and so we know who the players are, we know what their arguments are going to be, we know what to expect. And we've had some experience testifying and getting members engaged and active. A huge part of our success this past session was people getting involved at the grassroots level. Individual members calling their representatives, writing letters. We got a lot of feedback that voice was heard, and what we need is for that to happen again.
If we're going to be effective in the legislature, we have to develop very close relationships.
And we are experts at doing things with people face to face, so we should be better at this than any other profession.
One of the biggest things we accomplished this session was getting our definition bill. We have a new definition for psychology, and we have the word diagnosis in our statute now,
which will give us further protections, and that's a good thing.
We're going to be moving forward in our next step for RXP as well.
The prescriptive authority bill. Our phone calls, our emails, our office visits, our personal letters make a difference. We know that they count those things.
This process has showed me how easy it is to get in touch with legislators. Before, I thought there was all this red tape, or it would be difficult to get me to individual meetings or to get a phone call in, but it's so easy that everyone should really do it.
TPA is the vehicle for that to happen.
TPA is whoever shows up.
If I, as a psychologist, do not participate in this process, then I can't expect my best interests to be served or to be considered.
If they're not, then other people will define what the issues are for us.
Somebody has to speak up for the profession. If we stand up and say, hey, this is what's at stake.
If it's not me, who is going to do it, and if not now, when?
And we can continue to be a force of change for the better.